3 days after I moved in, the HOA president actually tried to take my lake. She had no clue I owned the very docks her entire neighborhood relied on. Picture this. I'm standing inside my late uncle's cabin, the air still thick with the scent of funeral lily and aged pine, when a pearl-white Escalade crunches up the gravel drive. Out steps a woman dressed for tennis on a Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. gripping a folder like it holds the secrets of the universe. Belinda Crankshaw, HOA president, she declares, pushing documents into my hands. This lake is community property. You need to hand over the marina operations immediately. The papers were polished and formal, but something in her frantic gaze screamed desperation. What I didn't realize yet was that she was sitting atop a financial powder keg and I was the only one who could either defuse it or blow her entire plan to pieces. What would you do if someone tried to swipe your inheritance just days after a funeral? Drop a comment with your HOA horror stories and let me know where you're watching from. Let me rewind and explain how this mess began. 6 months ago, I was Marcus Trenton, 45, divorced, an electrician from Detroit, living in a studio apartment that reeked of instant noodles and broken dreams. My ex took the house, I got the debt. My future was dimmer than a burned-out fuse. Then came the curveball. Uncle Silas passed, and everything changed. Uncle Silas was the black sheep of the family. Spent for decades alone on a pristine lakefront property in Michigan, hardly spoke to anyone, but he chronicled everything in journals down to the minute detail. His funeral was modest, just me and a handful of leathery old neighbors, murmuring rumors about how he kept the vultures at bay. The lawyer's office smelled like stale coffee and forgotten promises when he slid the inheritance documents across the desk. 2 acres of prime shoreline, Mr. Trenton. The cabin needs some TLC, but you now own 400 feet of Lake Winnebago waterfront including underwater rights and the 8-slip marina your uncle ran. Underwater rights, no clue what that even meant. But I did understand $200 a month per boat slip. That's $1,600 in passive income. Just like that. The property was breathtaking. Towering pines shaded a solid old cabin from the 1960s. The water crystal clear, gently lapped against expertly built docks. You could still smell sawdust from Uncle Silas's workshop. It felt like a clean slate, a second chance. And then, Belinda Crankshaw showed up. 3 days after the funeral, 3 measuring for new windows when gravel sprays beneath the tires of that Escalade. Out steps this woman, arrogance radiating off her like heat from asphalt. Tennis gear, designer shades, a grin sharp enough to slit tires. Belinda Crankshaw, HOA president, she announces, marching up to my door with 2 uneasy board members behind her. We need to discuss your situation. The way she said situation made my jaw tighten. She thrust an envelope at me, official-looking documents inside, claiming the lake access is a grandfathered community easement, demanding I sign over control of the marina to the HOA for a symbolic $1 a year. This is how Lakeshore Estates operates, she lectured, as if I was a slow child. We enforce standards, uphold property values. We simply can't permit disruptive commercial use in a family-oriented neighborhood. Her tone was soaked in veiled threats and elitism. Message received loud and clear. You don't belong here. 48 hours, she warned, sliding her sunglasses down like a weapon. Sign voluntarily, or we'll crush you in court. Ask the Hendersons. Oh, wait, you can't. They moved after we made life difficult. The air between us thickened like a summer storm. That night, surrounded by Silas's dusty journals and the quiet sound of water tapping against dock posts, I started digging. What I found made my blood simmer. Entry after entry, documenting Belinda's years-long campaign of intimidation. The Kowalskis driven out after 18 months of nuisance lawsuits. The young Martinez couple chased off by a barrage of citations and threats. But one passage stopped me cold. Belinda thinks she's clever, Uncle Silas had written, but she doesn't know about the 1999 county easement deal. They owe $12,000 a year to legally access the lake. Haven't paid a dime. When I'm gone, the next owner holds the nuke, a nuclear option. My hands trembled as I flipped to the next page. The marina's on my underwater land. Every cleat, post, chain mined by deed. Let the scavengers come. The new owner has the ammunition. I sat back in Silas's creaky chair, coffee gone bitter in my mouth. This wasn't just about legal ownership. It was about a decades-long pattern of bullying, blackmail, and coercion. Belinda had been stripping lakefront owners of their property through legal games and fear, but this time, she'd picked the wrong mark. The basement held more secrets, and I had a feeling Silas had left me every tool I'd need to dismantle her little empire. It was time to strike back. Belinda didn't waste time retaliating. The morning after her deadline passed, I'm making coffee when 3 vehicles roll up like some sort of tactical raid. A county inspector truck, a sheriff's SUV, and of course Belinda's Escalade bringing up the rear. The scent of diesel blended with fresh grounds as I stepped outside to watch the show. "Mr. Trenton," the inspector barked. "Dave Morrison, County Code Enforcement. We've received complaints illegal commercial activity, environmental violations, unapproved structures." Behind him, Belinda practically bounced in her tennis outfit, giddy with anticipation. The deputy looked bored, but ready to enforce. "I'm sure it's just a misunderstanding," she cooed sweetly. "Once Mr. Trenton understands our standards, I'm confident he'll cooperate. But here's what 20 years in construction teaches you: how to spot a setup. And how to document everything. Mum, I need to do this inspection solo." Dave cut her off. "County protocol." Her smile froze like windshield frost. "Of course, I'll be in my car." The second she stepped away, Dave's entire tone shifted. "Your uncle was a good man," he said under his breath. "This lady's been filing complaints about you for 3 weeks before you even moved in. That tell you anything?" 3 weeks? I'd only inherited the place 4 weeks ago. Dave methodically inspected every dock, every electrical hookup, every permit Silas had carefully filed. I recorded it all, every corner, every document. "No violations." As we walked the shoreline, Dave whispered, "I've seen this play before. Harassment, endless complaints, then suddenly, the owner sells at a loss. Guess who buys it? Through dummy companies." It all clicked. That night, I didn't just read Silas's records, I photographed every last page. His filing cabinet smelled like mothballs and justified rage. The 1952 deed was crystal clear. All riparian rights, including the lakebed and any structure above it, belonged to the landowner. Silas had even underlined it in red ink. Most folks don't realize waterfront deeds usually include lake bottom rights unless stated otherwise. That's why it's so expensive. He was right. And the HOA had been collecting marina fees on my lakebed without paying a cent. The next morning, I made my move. I called Dave Morrison directly. "Dave, I need to file formal complaints trespassing, unauthorized use of private property, and running a commercial operation without landowner consent." "What commercial operation?" he asked. "The HOA has been charging $200 a month for each slip for 15 years on my lake bottom. That's $144,000 in back rent, plus damages." Silence. Then, "Jesus, you got proof." 40 years of it. Later that day, unexpected allies emerged. Tom and Betty Henderson knocked on my door with a Tupperware full of cookies and nerves like live wires. "We heard what Belinda's trying," Betty whispered, glancing around. "She did the same thing to us, but we saved everything." Tom handed me a thick binder. Every petty citation, every legal threat, every dirty trick, all cataloged. The cookies, sweet as justice. The paperwork, 17 violation notices in 6 months, gross an inch too long, mailbox the wrong shade, trash bins visible 37 minutes past pickup. Tom's voice cracked. "Cost us 31 grand in legal fees. Her husband found issues with our mortgage. The moment we pushed back, real convenient." Betty leaned in. 3 other families, same story. The Kowalskis, the Martinezes, the Patels. All sold at huge losses, all to the same shell company. That night, I sat on the dock, waves nudging the pilings I now knew were legally mine. This wasn't just about property anymore. This was about stopping a predator. I opened my laptop and began typing, not a resignation, but a declaration of war. Next morning, Belinda would find certified letters in her mailbox, formal trespass notices for every boat, a demand for $50,000 in back rent, and a 30-day deadline to vacate the marina. "Your move, Queen Belinda." Her response: predictable, vicious, and laughably fast. Within 48 hours, she called an emergency HOA meeting. Flyers plastered the neighborhood. Urgent community health hazard. Apparently, my marina was now an environmental and safety threat. I wasn't invited, of course, but Tom called after. "She snapped," he whispered. "Claimed your dock's leaking chemicals. Said you're planning to start a commercial fishing business that'll attract Undesirable elements. Coded nonsense. No surprise, people like Belinda always show their true selves when backed into a corner, Tom added. She's hired some big-shot lawyer from Grand Rapids. Guy bills for $100 an hour. They've just filed an injunction to halt all your construction activity, citing violations of environmental safeguards for the lake. Their lawyer bills at $400 an hour. The HOA was tearing through member dues like dry leaves on a bonfire, all in an effort to steal what was mine. But Belinda's real masterstroke hit the next morning. I was out replacing some rotting boards on the dock when I heard car doors slam shut. 3 of my marina slip renters were heading up the driveway, the Johnsons, the Kowalskis, and an older man named Frank, each looking like they'd rather be anywhere else. Marcus, Frank began, his voice tight. We got letters from the HOA yesterday. They're saying if we don't end our lease agreements with you by Friday, we'll be fined $500 a day for backing a non-compliant commercial operation. The fresh scent of wood stain on my hands clashed with the nervous energy coming off these decent folks. Belinda was using their own neighbors as weapons against them. She can't legally do that, I told Frank. But he only shook his head. Maybe not, he said, but she sure can make life miserable trying. The Johnsons just got cited over a garden gnome not matching the neighborhood aesthetic. My mailbox. Suddenly it's an inch tall after 15 years. It was the same method she'd used to push out the Hendersons, death by 1,000 petty infractions. That afternoon, I contacted the maritime lawyer Tom had told me about, Patricia Wong, a specialist in lakefront property disputes. Her tone was precise, professional, and expensive. Mr. Trenton, she said, I've reviewed the documents you sent over. Your riparian rights are solid, but there's something else you need to understand about this situation. My stomach tightened. What? I've seen this kind of playbook before. Belinda Crankshaw has acquired 4 lakefront properties in the last 8 years using the exact same tactics. She initiates legal pressure, drives up litigation costs, then swoops in with low-ball settlement offers, usually at 60% of the home's market value. The puzzle pieces started to snap into place. But here's where it gets interesting, Patricia continued. I cross-checked property records with her husband Dale's bank. Lakeshore Bank holds mortgages on 23 out of the 47 HOA homes. If he's pulling strings in HOA decisions, that's a glaring conflict of interest. Bingo. The deck had been stacked from the beginning. There's more, she said, papers shuffling in the background. Your uncle's marina lease agreements show consistent $200 monthly payments from HOA members over the past 15 years. But the HOA's own records indicate they've been charging members $250 a month for marina upkeep. Wait a minute, they were overcharging each member by $50 and pocketing the difference. For 15 years, that's $36,000 in misappropriated funds, stolen from their own neighbors. Belinda wasn't just orchestrating property theft. She was systematically defrauding the entire community. That night, I made a decision that would change the game. I wasn't going to keep playing defense. I went on the offensive. I spent 3 hours crafting a meticulous letter addressed to every household in the HOA. In it, I laid bare the financial discrepancies, the conflict of interest with Dale's bank, and the clear pattern of intimidation and harassment. But the bombshell was in the final paragraph, effective immediately. All marina operations were suspended until the HOA cleared their $144,000 debt for unauthorized use of my lakebed. All boats needed to be removed within 30 days. Any left behind would be considered abandoned and disposed of accordingly. The letters went out via certified mail to all 47 properties. By Thursday morning, my phone lit up, not with angry backlash, but with desperate pleas. Half the neighborhood docked their boats at my marina. Without those slips, they had no access to the lake. Then came the call I'd been hoping for. Patricia Wong. Marcus, she said. I dug deeper. That 1999 agreement your uncle mentioned, I found it. The HOA's lake access easement required annual payments of $12,000 to the property owner. Guess how many they've actually made? I was grinning before she finished. None. They owed $312,000 in unpaid easement fees. Without that agreement, the entire HOA loses its lake access. That's a 40% drop in property value for 31 of the 47 homes. Suddenly, I wasn't the one under siege. Belinda was. Her panic arrived like a hurricane. Within hours of those letters hitting mailboxes, she was calling city officials, County reps, anyone who'd listen, her spin. I was in Ecoville destroying the lake with illegal construction. The first attack came Tuesday morning. I was installing new cleats on the dock when an official-looking truck rolled in, Environmental Protection Services stenciled on the side. Out stepped a clipboard-wielding guy with a holier-than-thou attitude. Mr. Trenton, Jim Bailey. I'm contracted by the city to investigate septic violations. Got reports of untreated waste leaking into the lake. My septic system worked perfectly. Uncle Silas had it serviced and inspected just 6 months before he passed. Still, I walked Bailey through the system while he snapped photos and took soil samples like it was a crime scene. System seems fine to me, he finally muttered, once Belinda's SUV disappeared around the bend. But between us, I've gotten 3 separate calls this week pushing for this inspection. Same voice each time. The harassment was escalating. Wednesday delivered a new low. I was grabbing the mail when Jerry Kowalski jogged up, looking like a rabbit in a foxhole. Marcus, you need to hear what happened at last night's emergency board meeting. Belinda hired a pie, some guy out of Detroit, to dig up dirt on you. My coffee turned bitter in my mouth. What kind of dirt? Everything: divorce records, financials, employment history. She's trying to paint you as unfit to own lakefront property. He looked around like we were being watched. But here's the twist. Half the board is fed up. 2 members already quit because they're afraid they'll be held personally liable for all this. That afternoon, the call came, the one I'd been bracing for. Mr. Trenton. Amanda Bennett, Channel 8 News. We received an anonymous tip about environmental violations on your property. Would you care to comment? Anonymous tip? Yeah, right. But I was ready. Amanda, I'd be happy to talk. Not about alleged violations, but about widespread HOA fraud and targeted harassment campaigns against lakefront owners. I've got for decades of documentation. The line went quiet, then I could hear her interest spike. Can you elaborate? I gave her the elevator pitch: fake marina fees, bank conflicts, bullying tactics to force distressed property sales. By the time we hung up, the interview was locked in for Friday. But Belinda wasn't done. Thursday, she went nuclear. I was swapping out a section of dock railing when 3 vehicles stormed up my driveway, a county inspector, a sheriff's deputy, and, I swear, a man in a hazmat suit claiming he was with the state's environmental agency. Sir, we need you to stop all construction immediately, hazmat guy barked, pending an investigation into possible groundwater contamination. Fresh-cut lumber, diesel exhaust, and bureaucracy, the scent cocktail of the day. Behind them, Belinda lounged in her Escalade like a general overseeing a battlefield. But this time, Uncle Silas's foresight paid off. I pulled out my phone and started recording everything: faces, badges, accusations. Then I called Patricia Wong and put her on speaker. Gentlemen, I said, you're speaking with my attorney. Patricia, they're claiming groundwater contamination from dock work. She cut through the nonsense like a buzzsaw. What specific contaminants are you testing for? What are your baseline readings? And who submitted the complaint? Crickets. Turns out, Belinda accused me of dumping toxic chemicals into the lake, a total lie. I'd been using environmentally safe wood sealants, and I had receipts to prove it. The whole thing was a setup, but the real breakthrough came later that night, when Tom Henderson showed up at my door holding a manila folder that practically radiated triumph. Betty and I did some digging, he said, eyes gleaming. Remember those other families Belinda chased off? We found them. He spread out photos, deeds, sale contracts, and shell company paperwork across my kitchen table. Every harassed property had been purchased by the same LLC, Lakeshore Development. Guess who runs it? Tom asked. I didn't have to. Belinda Crankshaw. And her husband Dale had financed the deals with pumped-up appraisals. This wasn't random intimidation. It was a calculated land grab scheme. 4 families terrorized. Property values manipulated. Bank and insurance fraud. It wasn't harassment anymore. It was organized crime. That night, I sat alone on the dock, the lake whispering beneath the planks like it had for generations. The moon shimmered on the surface like scattered silver coins, and I understood something vital. This was no longer just about my land. It was about justice for every family Belinda had driven away, every neighbor she'd bullied, every voice she'd silenced. Tomorrow, I'd arm Channel 8 with enough truth to blow the lid off her entire operation. But tonight, I savored the quiet before the storm. Friday morning, everything changed. while organizing Uncle Silas's old paperwork for the interview, I discovered a thick manila envelope stuck behind the filing cabinet. Somehow, I'd missed it before. On the front, in Silas's familiar handwriting, "For my heir, when the vultures circle." Inside was a photocopy of an agreement dated November 15, 1999, between Silas Trenton and Lakeshore County. At the top, easement agreement for lakefront development access. My hands trembled as I read it. The county had needed lake access to approve the Lakeshore Estates subdivision. Without it, none of the 47 homes could have been built, so they negotiated with Uncle Silas, granting permanent lake access in exchange for one key condition: a $12,000 annual payment to the property owner. Every year, for 26 years. But according to the attached payment ledger, the HOA hadn't made a single payment since 2017. They owed me 8 years of back fees, $96,000, plus 8% compound interest. The grand total, $147,000. Uncle Silas had even left a handwritten note. They stopped paying when they thought I was too old and sick to fight. Joke's on them. I kept every record. If they miss 12 months, the easement is void. Without lake access, 31 homes lose 40% of their value. That's $2.3 million in lost equity. Now I understood why Belinda was so frantic. This wasn't just about docks or marina slips. This was about the financial spine of the entire neighborhood. No easement meant no legal access to the water. No swimming, no boating, no fishing. Just expensive lakefront homes with pretty views and no actual lake access. But the final blow came in Silas's last note. Check the county recorder's office. Belinda knows about this. She's known for years. That's why she's trying to force us out. If she gets this property, she erases the easement forever. Right then, my phone buzzed. It was Patricia Wong. Found something big on your HOA. President, can you meet this afternoon? I called her back instantly. Patricia, I found the easement agreement. They owe me $147,000 in unpaid fees. Silence. Then, Jesus Christ, Marcus. That explains everything. What are you talking about? I spent all of yesterday combing through property records. Turns out, Belinda Crankshaw didn't just use shell corporations to snap up those other lakefront lots. She did it with purpose. She was eliminating any potential easement claims. Every parcel she snatched up had similar county access clauses. A pattern was emerging, and it was undeniable. This wasn't just some petty power trip from an overzealous HOA president. Belinda had orchestrated an elaborate real estate fraud scheme, systematically removing anyone who might challenge the neighborhood's lake access rights. And there's more, Patricia said, leaning in. I located the original county planning documents from back in 1999. The entire Lakeshore Estates development only got the green light because of that easement agreement. Without it, there's no way the county would have signed off on 47 homes being built on a landlocked parcel. So if I cancel the easement now, 31 homes lose their main selling feature overnight. Property values tank, mortgages go underwater, and Dale's bank ends up sitting on a pile of toxic loans. No wonder they're in full-blown panic. This was never just about my dock. We're talking millions of dollars in property value and a bank that could implode if the truth got out. I stared out at the lake, where neighbors' boats bobbed peacefully, totally oblivious to the fact that their HOA leader had been deceiving them for years about the very legal ground beneath their homes. Uncle Silas left me more than a parcel of land. He left me a ticking time bomb. And Belinda had just given me no choice but to detonate it. The kitchen smelled like fresh coffee and vengeance. My table had transformed into a war room, cluttered with legal filings, survey maps, and a laptop playing the Channel 8 interview I gave that morning. The story was already gaining traction online. HOA president exposed in multi-million-dollar property scam, but this wasn't the time for celebration. A cornered predator is dangerous, and Belinda Crankshaw was about to lash out. Patricia Wong was the first to arrive, carrying a briefcase so sleek it looked like it cost more than my car. Marcus, we need to be smart about this. That easement, it's your nuclear option. But if you use it recklessly, it could blow up in your face. Next came Tom and Betty Henderson, followed by Jerry Kowalski and 3 neighbors I barely knew. Word was spreading like wildfire, and the rational folks in the community were choosing sides. Belinda's losing it, Jerry announced, setting down a box of donuts that smelled like victory. She called an emergency board meeting for tonight. Word is, she's proposing a $3,000 special assessment per household to fight you in court. $3,000 per family, on top of the legal money they'd already burned through. She was bankrupting her own neighborhood to cover up her crimes. Patricia unfolded papers like a general preparing for battle. Here's what we're looking at. She's got 3 ways out. We need to shut down all of them. She pointed to the first document. Option 1. Claim the easement is invalid because of some legal technicality. She's probably already hired experts to challenge the county's authority from back in '99. Is that even possible? I asked. Possible, sure, but it takes time and money to debunk. Meanwhile, she keeps charging fake marina fees and pressuring more families to sell. Betty leaned in, eyes blazing. What's option 2? Eminent domain. She convinces the county your land is essential for the public good. Forces a sale below market value. It's a long shot, but Dale's banking contacts could give them some pull. Then came the third route, and it sent a chill down my spine. Number 3 is the dirtiest, Patricia said. She tried to destroy your reputation. Think false police reports, planted evidence, anything to paint you as an unstable menace who shouldn't own lakefront property. Tom's face darkened. She pulled that on us. Suddenly we were the bad neighbors with constant violations. Amazing how many rules they find when they're looking. Patricia wasn't finished. But I found something yesterday that changes the game, and Belinda doesn't know it yet. There's a federal law, the Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act. It's a felony to intentionally harass property owners to manipulate home values. We're not just in civil court territory anymore. This is federal prison time. The room went silent, broken only by the fridge's low hum and the distant buzz of boats on the water. How do we prove a pattern of harassment? I asked. Jerry raised his hand like we were back in school. I've been documenting everything since the Hendersons were forced out. Photos, violation notices, HOA meeting notes where she talked about enforcing standards. 3 years' worth. Betty pulled out a folder from her purse. We reached out to the other families she bullied into leaving. The Martinezes, the Patels, the Kowalskis, who sold in 2019. They kept records too. Our response was beginning to take shape. Patricia laid out the plan. Phase 1. We go public with the $147,000 easement fee. Certified letters to every HOA member so they all see what Belinda's been hiding. Phase 2. Tom added. We rally the reasonable ones. Jerry already has 15 families ready to sign a petition demanding her resignation and a financial audit. Phase 3 is the media offensive, Patricia continued. Channel 8 was just a start. I've got a contact at the Detroit Free Press and a producer at 60 Minutes who specializes in real estate fraud. Then came the curveball. Rebecca Marsh, the elementary school teacher who lived a few houses down and had been quietly listening, finally spoke up. Why not use her own tactics against her? Belinda's used HOA meetings to intimidate people for years. What if we packed the next one with lies and demand answers about the easement? It was perfect. Why fight her in a courtroom she could afford when we could challenge her at the community center, in front of everyone she lied to? The annual HOA meeting set for next Saturday, Jerry said, glancing at his phone. All 47 households get a vote. Patricia grinned like a predator. Perfect. By then, we'll have filed the federal complaints, sent the payment demands, and made sure every neighbor knows exactly how much she's cost them. I looked around at the people who'd become my co-conspirators in a battle I never wanted. Tomorrow, we'd begin dismantling Belinda's house of cards. But tonight, we were going to savor the strategy behind her downfall. Belinda didn't waste time. Her retaliation was fast, brutal, and utterly illegal. Sunday night, I was buried in legal documents when I heard the grinding of heavy machinery outside. Through the window, I saw a construction truck dumping broken concrete and rusted rebar. Right at the waterline, just close enough to appear on my property, but technically on the county's right-of-way. By Monday morning, 3 sections of my dock were spray-painted in dripping red letters. Community property. The stench of fresh paint mixed with lake air as I took pictures with my phone, fuming. Then came Tuesday. I was pressure washing the vandalism when a sheriff's cruiser pulled into my driveway. Deputy Martinez stepped out, looking uncomfortable. Behind him sat Belinda's Escalade like a hawk waiting for a kill. Mr. Trenton, I really hate to do this, but I've got 3 reports filed against you. I'll claim you threatened HOA board members with violence. I shut off the washer. 3. Yep. Belinda, Dale Hutchkins, and he checked his notepad. Patricia Kowalski says you showed up Saturday night at her place making terroristic threats. The accusation was laughable. Deputy, I was at my lawyer's office until 9 p.m. Saturday, then home watching Netflix. I've got proof. Martinez nodded. I believe you. Still gotta log the report. But maybe install security cameras, just in case. The message was loud and clear. Belinda had moved to fake criminal charges. Later that night, Patricia called with a lead that made my blood boil. Marcus, someone at the county inspector's office tipped me off. Belinda tried to bribe Jim Bailey, offered him $2,000 in cash to flag your property for environmental violations. Tell me he recorded it. Even better, he reported her and filed a formal complaint. But get this, she also approached the septic inspector, the fire marshal, and the electrical guy. She's literally trying to buy violations. The scope of her corruption was staggering. But now we had more ammo. Wednesday brought fresh chaos. Tom Henderson called at dawn, voice shaking. Marcus, they broke into our mailbox last night. Took 3 weeks of mail, including our social security checks and Betty's medical stuff. Found it all in a ditch near Belinda's place. Mail theft. That's a federal offense. She was getting desperate. But the worst came Thursday. My phone rang, the call I'd been dreading. Mr. Trenton, this is Sandra Willis with the Michigan DNR. We've received complaints that your construction may have disturbed protected wildlife. We need to inspect immediately. I grabbed my files and met her at the dock. Sandra was thorough, professional, and clearly irritated. After 2 hours of checking soil, snapping photos, and reviewing documents, she gave her verdict. Mr. Trenton, your improvements actually help the lake's ecosystem. Whoever reported you either has no clue or is deliberately wasting our time. As she packed up, she leaned in. Off the record, we've gotten 4 complaints about your place in the past 2 weeks. Same person every time. The accusations are getting more hysterical. That afternoon, Jerry came jogging over, breathless. Emergency HOA meeting last night, he said. Belinda's proposing hiring private security to patrol the neighborhood. Basically, she wants to pay people to spy on you. Her paranoia was off the charts, but there's a silver lining, he added. 3 board members resigned. They don't want to get sued. The board's down to Belinda, her husband, and one guy who owes Dale's bank $50,000. Her empire was crumbling. By Friday, I had installed a full security system, 8 cameras, motion sensors, and live cloud backups beamed straight to Patricia's office. But the real win came that afternoon when Rebecca Marsh knocked on my door, clutching a manila envelope and grinning like she'd hit the jackpot. Marcus, you're not gonna believe this. I teach Dale's daughter, Emma. Yesterday, she asked why her dad was scared of the lake man. Then she said she overheard her parents arguing about the money they owe and what'll happen if people find out. Kids catch everything, even the stuff adults think goes unnoticed. Emma let it slip that her mother, Belinda, had been making hush-hush phone calls about selling their home and getting out of town before everything hit the fan. The rats, it seemed, were ready to leap off the sinking ship. That night, sitting on my dock under the soft hum of newly installed security cameras, I realized Belinda had made a critical mistake. Every shady move, every bogus complaint, every desperate smear campaign was being recorded from multiple angles. She thought she was tearing me down. In reality, she was laying the groundwork for the federal case that would obliterate her. Belinda's last week as a free woman was a crash course in criminal self-destruction. Monday morning, I woke up to find a truck parked in my driveway. Its side read Lakeshore Property Management Services. 2 guys in Palos were snapping photos of my shoreline like they owned it. Hey, I called. This is private property. The bigger guy barely glanced at me. Court order, Hal. The HOA hired us to assess community assets for receivership. Court order, I checked. No such thing had been filed. What they didn't know was I had everything on record. By Tuesday, things had escalated. Patricia Wong phoned me, voice tight with restrained fury. Marcus, Belinda just filed a lease renewal at the county clerk's office. She claims you signed a 99-year agreement handing over all lake rights to the HOA for $1 a year. The nerve was astonishing. Please tell me they didn't fall for it. Oh, They accepted it until I had a handwriting analyst review your signature. It's laughably fake. She didn't even get the capitals right. Forgery. Federal offense. Minimum 5 years. Wednesday's gift was a bribery scandal. That day, Judge Morrison's campaign fund mysteriously received a $5,000 donation from concerned Lakeshore citizens. Hours later, Belinda filed motions to contest the easement agreement. Problem. The check came from the HOA's community account and was signed by Dale Crankshaw. That's campaign finance fraud, misuse of funds, and attempted bribery all in one tidy bundle. She was collecting felonies like trading cards. Thursday morning, Patricia called, struggling to contain her laughter. "You're not going to believe this," she said. "Belinda staged an environmental protest outside the county building. Hired 15 temp workers to wave signs accusing you of polluting the lake. Did it work? Oh, it worked all right, just not how she hoped." Channel 8 interviewed the protesters. Half admitted on camera they got paid $50 and had no clue what the protest was about. The rest couldn't even pronounce environmental. At this point, the whole thing was turning into a farce, but Friday delivered something that hit like a punch to the gut. Rebecca Marsh called at sunrise, her voice edged with professional worrying. "Marcus, Emma Crankshaw didn't show up to school. I called the house. Belinda said they went to visit family. But Emma's grandmother lives 2 blocks away, and she hasn't seen them. They were on the run." An hour later, Tom Henderson confirmed it caught them loading oversized suitcases into Dale's car at 5 a.m. They were making a break for it before the federal charges caught up. That afternoon, the call came that shifted everything. "Mr. Trenton, this is Special Agent Lisa Bennett from the FBI's Financial Crimes Division," said the voice on the line. "We've been observing developments in your neighborhood for some time. Your attorney's documentation on the fraud scheme is extensive. We're ready to take action." "What kind of action?" "Arrests, warrants, asset seizures. Mrs. Crankshaw has been operating a cross-state racketeering enterprise. Similar activity has been spotted in Ohio and Indiana. This is no longer just a local HOA issue. It was massive. Belinda hadn't just been fleecing property owners, she was running a multi-state scam." "We need you at Saturday's HOA meeting as planned," Agent Bennett said. "Let her think she's in the clear while we move in. Can you manage that?" Saturday morning came with low clouds and the smell of rain in the air. The community center lot was jammed. 47 households, some press, and what looked like half the county's unmarked law enforcement. Inside, Belinda sat at the front, dressed in a navy blazer like battle armor. Her smile looked like it hurt. Dale was next to her, checking his phone as if bracing for disaster. The meeting kicked off like usual: budget updates, landscaping talk, typical HOA red tape. But tension simmered beneath the surface. Then Rebecca Marsh stood. "I'd like to address the $147,000 in unpaid easement fees owed to Mr. Trenton for lake access." Silence blanketed the room. Belinda's smile flickered. "I'm not sure what you're referring to," she said. Tom Henderson stood. "We're talking about the 1999 county agreement requiring $12,000 annually for community lake access payments. The HOA stopped making in 2017. One by one, neighbors rose: Jerry Kowalski, Betty Henderson, and more. Families realizing they'd been misled about their community's legal footing." Belinda snapped. "This is a coordinated smear campaign by outsiders trying to destroy our property values." Right then, Agent Bennett entered. Her badge gleamed under fluorescent lights. "Mrs. Belinda Crankshaw, you are under arrest for racketeering, mail fraud, wire fraud, document forgery, and conspiracy to commit real estate fraud." The handcuffs clicked like music. It was over. Gasps filled the room. Dale tried slipping out a side exit. Deputy Martinez was already there. "Dale Crankshaw, you're under arrest for bank fraud, conspiracy, and violations of real estate law." Channel 8's cameras were rolling, capturing every moment. Belinda shrieked, "This is a setup. He's the criminal. He threatened us. He wants our lake." I stood slowly, folder in hand. "Actually, Belinda," I said, walking to the front, "let's talk about who's been stealing from whom." I held up the easement agreement. "This 1999 document, signed by the county and my uncle, mandates $12,000 annually for lake access. Without it, 31 homes lose their waterfront rights." Murmurs turned to panic. "How much do we owe?" Jerry asked. $147,000 with interest." But it got worse. I revealed property records Tom had gathered. Belinda's targeted lakefront owners, harassing them into selling cheap. For families forced out, homes bought through shell companies at 60% market value. The outrage was growing. She also skimmed from you directly. The HOA charged $250 a month for marina fees, but only paid my uncle $200. That's $36,000 siphoned from your dues over 15 years. Chaos broke loose. She stole from us, my fees funded her scam. How much more is missing? Belinda was losing it. You don't get it. He's an outsider, Rebecca stood. You mean someone who legally owns his property? Tom followed. You drove us out with threats and lies. $31,000 in legal fees just to keep our home. Agent Bennett raised evidence bags. We have proof of bribery, forgery, mail theft, and fake police reports, documents, photos, testimony. This spans multiple states. Reporters scrambled. Hashtags like hashtag HOA scandal and hashtag Lake WNEBAGO exposed trended within hours. Then I addressed the crowd. Despite everything, I'm willing to settle. Forgive the $147,000 in back fees for a $50,000 5-year plan to fund marina repairs and restore the lake. The room breathed out as one. I'll guarantee lake access, fair fees, and create a resident-led committee to keep things transparent. Applause broke out. As the agents led Belinda and Dale away, she turned back. This isn't over. My lawyers will bury you. Agent Bennett didn't flinch. Ma'am, you're facing 37 federal charges. Your lawyers are going to be very busy. The doors slammed behind her like the end of a bad era. Justice, Lakefront Edition. And it never tasted sweeter. 6 months later, the scent of BBQ and pine floated across Lake Winnebago as 300 neighbors gathered for the first Lake Freedom Festival. Belinda was serving 18 months after pleading guilty to 14 charges. Dale lost his banking license and was sentenced to 2 years. The FBI seized over $340,000 in assets, homes, cars, and boats auctioned to repay victims. But it was never about revenge. It was about making things right. The new HOA board, elected unanimously, slashed dues by 45% through honest budgeting. Property values shot up 18%. Real marina maintenance replaced the fake fees. Things were finally visible, touchable, real. Rebecca Marsh jogged over with a beaming smile. We'd been dating for 4 months. Turns out fighting corruption is solid relationship glue. She handed me a thick envelope. We got the $25,000 grant for lake restoration and native species rehab. The Silas Trenton Conservation Initiative would revitalize 200 acres of shoreline. Emma Crankshaw, now thriving with her grandma, signed up first for sailing classes. She was Rebecca's star student. The Marina Cooperative was generating $3,200 a month, funding roads, playgrounds, and a new accessible beach. Uncle Silas would have loved it. Jerry rushed over. Patricia Wong called. The documentary about this won a regional Emmy. She's launching a national nonprofit to fight HOA abuse using our case as the model. Calls from across the country poured in. Patricia's clinic had helped 17 families already. The movement grew. Michigan passed the Property Rights Protection Act. Other states followed. When the original Kowalski family returned to the lake buying a cabin just across the water, it felt like the full circle moment. You didn't just save your land, Mr. Kowalski told me, eyes moist. You saved the belief that regular people can win. As sunset painted the lake gold, I stood on the dock where it all began. The wood beneath my feet, worn but strong like our community, kids' laughter echoed over water now shared by all. The Silas Trenton Environmental Scholarship would grant $5,000 annually to local students pursuing environmental justice. Emma Crankshaw was the first recipient. Uncle Silas always said, sometimes protecting good folks means stopping the bad. But the bigger truth, communities heal when neighbors choose courage over comfort, truth over silence, and justice over convenience. As stars blanketed the sky, Lake Winnebago shimmered with hope. This place finally belonged to everyone. If your HOA story feels familiar, drop it in the comments. Let us know where you're watching from. You could be featured next. And if this taste of justice hit the spot, hit subscribe and ring that bell for more tales of neighbors fighting back and winning. Because sometimes the good guys really do win. Thanks for watching Stories. If you loved today's saga, like, comment with your favorite moment, and don't forget to subscribe so You're first in line for the next showdown.